All right, Machen MacDonald. So glad to have you on the podcast finally after rescheduling like 800 times.
Only feels like 46 though.
Yeah, and I will take credit for at least half of those, or more. I don't care. I'm just happy you're here. And so everybody, Machen is a business development and mindset coach, and his business is Pro Brilliance Leadership Institute. Mm-hmm. And you've been doing this for many years, and I know you're very good at it just from normal conversations that I've had with you. You definitely have a talent and a gift in terms of being able to open up somebody's mind and help them unclog themselves, their mental clogs.
Yeah, if you like the normal conversations, you're going to love the paranormal conversations.
We're talking like supernatural, or are we talking just like natural, ooh, we've talked about trees before, right?
Only if we're hugging them.
Yes, like the power of hugging trees.
Yes.
Yeah. So
this is kind of lost on me.
It doesn't matter.
That's fine.
We'll reel it.
Machen brings a lot to the table, and I really like the guy. I really like you, man.
Thanks.
Good person to know. How long have you been coaching for officially?
Well, officially, we hung out the shingle in 2004.
Oh, okay. So we're going on 20 years here.
Yeah.
Officially.
Yeah.
And I understand you have a lot of clients that are in the financial industry, right? But you do coach pretty much any business owner, right? Who can...
Yeah, any small business owner, primarily service-based. I have some manufacturing companies, but that's not really my sweet spot.
Right. And that makes sense to me as far as needing to work on somebody's mindset. Mm-hmm. I can speak to that because we are a service-based business. So I know firsthand what those struggles are, and I find it interesting that you can learn something on a logical level. Like I call it just like your mind can learn something, but until you actually experience it, you don't really get a deep understanding. That's just like the way I see it. And like, I feel like I do a lot of learning, but until I have the need to use that knowledge,
it's almost not real.
It's almost not real. It almost doesn't matter. Which is a big change that I've gone through, which is like I just need to be and do, and then use whatever knowledge I have on the fly as I need it, versus trying to use my knowledge to project some sort of like results or like intricate plan. Yeah. Yeah. It's probably a common mistake. I would defer that to you.
Well, it's you made the distinction between learning and knowing, right? We can learn something. We can even attempt it, but doesn't mean that we know it.
Yeah.
And when we know it, we've escalated through. There's 4 steps in a learning, really, and it's unconscious incompetence. In other words, we don't even know we don't know something. Then we learn, right? Now we kind of know what we don't know, and then we practice and we try and we make mistakes and we get some feedback, and then now we are consciously competent at something, but we got to stop and think about it. And then as we keep going, it's kind of that 10,000 hour thing that Malcolm Gladwell talks about, where you get to this level where it's just in you. It's become part of the DNA, if you will. And that's where you really know it.
Is that called like unconscious
competence?
Competence.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly.
And it sounds so nice.
Yeah, it's packaged up real neat.
Yeah, like it just works.
Yeah.
You're just good at it. I could see that makes perfect sense to me. I also think it's interesting, speaking to that, just being in the information age where there's so much, there's no shortage of information. And not even talking about all the stuff out there that's just like not quite right. But even if we just assume that like it's all pretty much good and right, that's fine. But you can really overload easy on the knowledge if you're not focused on mastery of anything.
Yeah, that's a big sticking point for a lot of people that I coach, or any small business owner, is their tendency is to get ready. And a real safe place to hide out is gathering more information, right?
Yeah.
When I know this, when I get good at this, then.
Right.
Right.
Yeah, that's definitely something that we've had to be really aware of.
Mm-hmm.
It's like maybe we should just kind of do. We've got enough to at least start doing something. We have a friend who's a business owner, and he's really good about, hey, I took the first class and I implemented it that night, and I'm going to go back for the second class.
Yeah.
It's just really smart.
And it's like,
One thing at a time.
Yeah.
It's just like, okay, well, we would have the tendency to go through the whole class and then think about it and write out a plan, and then maybe a month later we would implement.
If we're lucky.
If we're lucky.
Yeah.
If we don't forget about it.
Right.
And so, yeah, I can definitely resonate with that safe space of hiding out. Oh, I kind of get a better understanding.
Oh, yeah, because it looks like business, right?
Right.
I'm doing all this stuff. Look at me, and I'm learning. This is great. I can see the future.
Right.
But you can't navigate a parked car, right? You can't get any feedback from the GPS unless you're moving, and you've got to put yourself out there and lean into it, make the mistakes, get the feedback.
That's a great analogy.
Yeah.
I've never heard that one before, actually. You can't navigate a parked car.
No.
Yeah. And
a lot of people think they can, though.
yeah, well, and it's a lot more fun to drive it anyway.
Mm-hmm.
But it's also scarier. There's more at risk, technically. Well, maybe not technically, because if you're not doing anything, you're actually like 100% at risk of getting no results. Right? Like if you don't do anything,
Decay.
you don't get results, right? So
Yeah.
you're actually in a 100% risk zone by not driving it,
Right.
right?
Absolutely.
It's a hard thing to admit if you're in that.
Well, you're not in 100%. Well, yeah, I guess if it's a ratio to reward, then
Yeah.
your reward is 0. And even though your risk may be nothing, your reward is nothing as well.
Right, but like
So.
to me that's risky. Like
Yeah.
you need like the food doesn't get on the table with no money. Or what?
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
So,
But here's a thing to consider, too,
yeah.
is you can't access luck without risk.
Yeah.
And you look at any successful business,
and that's a good one too.
there's luck involved.
Yeah.
You can have a great plan, right? The thing you have to plan with a business plan is planning on the plan won't go according to plan.
Right.
And there's magic, right? There's miracles. There's luck involved. You look at like Microsoft with Bill Gates. If his high school wasn't one of the schools that got a computer in it back at that day, which was not common.
Right.
So here's his student body was like 300, and he was one of a couple kids that were attracted to that and played with it, and the world's totally different because of that. And that was a luck piece. He'll tell you that.
Right.
If that didn't happen, he says Microsoft wouldn't have happened.
Mm-hmm.
Wow. This is like a world-changing thing too. Just like that little. Yeah. Wow. Yeah. So you can't access luck without risk.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And you can't navigate a parked car. These are some good ones.
I can, but most people can't.
Right. What did you say? Planning to plan is where a lot of people get stuck. Is that what you said? Something like that.
Getting ready to get ready.
Getting ready to get ready.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's on the treadmill versus getting out on the track.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Yeah. Is that what do you think that is like one of the more common problems that you see in somebody who's maybe not even new to self-employment, but doing their own thing and they're stuck?
Mm-hmm.
Like, do you think most people get stuck in the beginning, like before they've even really started, or do you think? I don't know. Let's talk about being stuck.
Let's.
Yeah.
I love being stuck.
Yeah.
So there's 3 places, right, in our business. We're either paddling like hell to catch a wave, we're riding the wave, things are going well, or we're getting crushed by it. And it's always going to be a cycle. So don't expect I found the wave and now I can just ride it and life's great. It's going to be great.
Because that wave ends.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. So it's about looking to be stronger, better, quicker, and be able to adapt to things, just like what you guys have done here.
Right.
You're leaning into it. You're paddling. You're catching some of it.
Mm-hmm.
It's all good. And there's going to be things that shift up and change, and if you're not privy to that, if you're not anticipating that, and
Right.
also more importantly, anticipating the voice in the back of your head that might tell you, oh, we shouldn't take this risk. We shouldn't go down that path.
Right.
And then you have to look at, well, is that voice my wise self of my collected however many years I've been on this planet? Or is that voice the one that holds me in a less than posture of I'm not enough, I don't know enough,
Right.
right? Or if I do this and I get annihilated, then what? And part of it is just in the shifting of the mindset. Like one of my favorite sayings is by Pema Chodra, who says, only to the extent that you expose yourself over and over to annihilation can that which is in you that's indestructible be found. Right? So it's burning off all the impurities to let your gold shine. And as a business owner, you have to be willing to get it wrong, make mistakes. A lot of successes, you know, I was just watching a thing on the History Channel the other day on how food built America, and with Coca-Cola and Pepsi and that whole rivalry. And, you know, the person that was appointed to run Coke at the time thought, well, I'll just come out with the new Coke, you know, and they got rid of the terrible disaster in that moment. Right. But he stuck with it. He stayed with it. And then they came up and they came back with classic Coke, which is just the original Coke.
Right.
And their growth was exponential, better than any other campaign that could have occurred. But they had to get crushed. They had to get annihilated.
Right.
To
be able to go Coke Classic.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah, everybody wants the original.
Yeah.
But they don't know that if
until you take it away.
Yeah, until you take it away. That's crazy,
isn't it?
And that's kind of more on accident because I'm sure he wasn't setting up to
100%.
be annihilated.
Right.
And I bet you, I don't know, it almost...
But that's the piece, is you've got to be willing, right, to risk embarrassment, humiliation, annihilation. And when you can just lean into that stuff and recognize you've got whatever it takes to weather it and get through it, makes you stronger. You see more, you see opportunities faster. Pretty
Right.
powerful.
And that, you know, the analogy for fear, some people say face everything and rise. Some people say it's false events appearing real. That one's my favorite because we will catastrophize, maybe rejection or anything like that. And so we'll use our imagination, right? Because that's how our brain works, right? We use our imagination to basically run a simulation of something to see, like, is this a good idea to do or a bad idea? Like a really powerful tool that our brains are. But part of that is that we can catastrophize using that mechanism and imagine things that actually aren't real, but in the worst way, which makes sense from like a survival mechanism standpoint. Like evolutionarily, I could see how that could save your life.
Yeah, if you're constantly aware, it's like, okay, if I go out of this cave, there are things that kill me.
Right.
And how do I navigate so that doesn't happen?
Yeah.
You know, but we're not in that point anymore. So it's like, okay, well, we can afford more risk than.
But here's the
life and
challenge
death.
with all of that is that fear that you're talking about, it's in our DNA. It's primal.
Yeah.
Right.
It's in the limbic system of the brain. It's there to keep us alive.
Yeah.
No matter what.
Yeah.
Now, the blessing is through evolution, we've got a neocortex, frontal neocortex, right? So now we can recognize that the rattle in the grass is not a saber-toothed tiger. It's just the wind.
Right.
Okay. And so that's where we have to remember our wisdom, you know, what worked, what didn't work, what could be better. And as we're moving through things, if we're looking at it and planning with the neocortex part of our brain where we're, you know, totally plugged in and we move forward, and then to recognize and even anticipate when that limbic system's going to get triggered. Right. It's lurking out there in the dark that we can't even see.
Yeah.
But something's going to pop up and it's like, oh, I've been here before, I got to watch out, when in fact we don't.
It's like knowing your triggers.
It's exactly knowing your triggers.
Yeah.
But here's the difference, right? This is the analogy that I use. If you put your hand on a hot stove, what do?
Pull your hand back.
Yeah, why?
Because
it sucks.
Because it sucks, right?
Yeah.
But here's the thing, right? How many people put their hand on the stove and then all of a sudden they're like, man, this is hot. Somebody turn this thing off. You know,
Right,
it's like,
right.
it's burning up. It's down to the bone. Help me. You know, nobody does that.
No.
Right?
Right.
We'd lock them up if they did.
Yeah.
But we tend to do that in our lives with regards to what we assume is a risk or a
Right.
threat.
Analogously, we do that.
Yeah, we
Yeah.
just kind of keep awfulizing or what
Catastrophizing.
Catastrophizing.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it's like and that's just a matter of what if questions. So we're asking what if this, and most entrepreneurs, most business owners, they're like what if, and pretty soon they're living in a box underneath the bridge down by the river, and their family's left them, and there's a big billboard that says, "Don't ever work with this person."
Right.
That's like worst case, and that'll lock anybody up if we believe it's true.
Right.
So,
But to even allow yourself to think that thought is that first dive into the downward spiral, right? Which is crazy because, you know...
but you got to know that it's just part of the DNA.
Yeah. So a thing, I might have gone through a phase in my life where I was almost really actively trying to control my thoughts on a conscious level to where I would not even allow myself to think a negative thought at all. And I'm not sure if I took it too far and it burned me out, because it's well, you also need to not be superstitious about your own mind, because now you're double backing, now you don't know shit. You know what I'm saying? Because you're there's something risky about 100% optimism almost. Does that make sense? Or
Maybe.
Yeah. So yeah, maybe I should, it seems to me if you get to the point where you're okay, cool, negative thoughts are bad, they don't help for the most part, in non-life-threatening situations, in business and whatever. So I'm going to think positive, abundant thoughts, but then it's almost I feel you're almost setting yourself up for, when you do slip, that you're almost won't have the strength to cope with it. Does that
which voice is that?
So you had
wise self and your limbic self.
Your wise self, yeah. And I think another way to say that is your boss voice and your bitch voice.
I like that.
I mean,
yeah.
So your champion and your victim, right?
Yeah.
It's the devil and the angel, right?
Yeah.
On the shoulders.
And the bitch voice and the devil they're very, very convincing because they really know us.
Yes. Yeah. Right. And so let's put it this way. I feel I fully understood that concept, and then I took it to the point where maybe, I don't know. I feel I took it to 110%, to where when it did get through, finally, it was harder to cope with it because I was less familiar with it. So it was but maybe that's that's the way it works. Is it's the better you get about it, the sneakier it has to get.
Yeah.
Does that?
Totally. No, you're absolutely right. It gets very sophisticated because what it is, it's the voice of our current self-concept of who it thinks we are. And it's not necessarily who we think we are that holds us back. It's who we think we're not. And so when we're operating from that place, it's going to get very clever to keep us alive. That's its job.
Right.
Yes. Okay. Yeah. So the more sophisticated you get with your game, your limbic system has to keep up with your right.
Yeah. And here's the piece with it is you have to learn to befriend that voice. It's not going anywhere. It's just, it's everywhere in us.
It's part of you.
It's part of us.
Yeah.
So the way that I look at it, it's like a cloud in the sky. You know, the cloud comes in, looks like a dragon. Holy shit.
Right.
I'm scared. My adrenaline's flowing. And then it's just if I know to just stick with it for a minute, it's oh, interesting. And guess what? It changes into the Pillsbury Doughboy.
Right.
Right.
and it's not a threat anymore.
Yeah.
Right.
So if we just befriend that voice and get really familiar with it,
Mm.
and just when it comes in, rather than going, God, I didn't stay positive enough, and
Right.
beat ourselves up, which is resistance, and what we resist persists.
It's probably what I was doing.
Maybe.
I'll just report that.
Okay.
Yeah.
And so if we can just befriend the voice and go like, oh, you again.
Yeah.
Hey, how you doing?
Yeah.
Hey, I got this.
What's up, you little bitch?
Yeah. But here's the thing. I mean, if you really want to check into the psychology of all of it, it's
Right.
these voices were formed at a very early age when we were feeling under threat, right? Being kicked out of the tribe and dying,
Right.
if
Right.
you will. And so, at the ripe old age of 8-year-old, when our brain's not fully developed and, everybody's an authority that's over, this high,
Right.
we make up what something means. And so when we make up that meaning, we kind of form an opinion.
Right.
Opinions, we form at the point which we stop thinking.
Mm.
And then it's like having that picture of your little kid's, third grade project on the refrigerator that says, warning, warning.
Right.
Right.
But what happens is we're dragging that picture that we created in the
Right.
third grade into business, and it doesn't serve us all that well anymore. So
Right.
we just have to befriend it and go, oh,
Right.
somehow this, showed up on my phone in my archives. It's like, it doesn't mean anything. It's just there.
Are you familiar with Dr. Joe Dispenza's work?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Mhm.
I haven't actually read through his books, but I've listened to him talk, and this is all on topic to his work, and
Mm-hmm.
it's really amazing how powerful small little sentences can be, right? Like a few that you brought up already. You can't navigate a parked car, you can't have luck without risk, stuff like that. I think it's weird, these days it gets those little handy
Heuristics.
yeah, and bullet points.
Facebook psychology.
Yeah, they get Instagramized.
Yeah.
And it's everywhere, which is good. I'd rather it be out there for people to be helped by than not at all.
Mm-hmm.
But it's also if you go down that wormhole, you start following pages that look like they're offering helpful information. It's pretty much all unoriginal, which is fine if it's right. But then I've noticed it gets very people realize they can get big follower counts if they just have a recurring system of outputting this content.
Mm-hmm.
And it's all, like I said, it's all regurgitated content, which doesn't necessarily make it wrong, but it could be anybody on the other side of that.
Yeah.
So my point is you could get started in this space, maybe I'm going to do something bigger with my life, but I know I have to be better first. And so you start consuming all this content and information that's out and available now. But I think there's something empty about what's happening now with the way it's being distributed.
Well, I mean, anything.
You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah, I mean, you become over familiarized with anything, and it loses its
And I think
its
that's
hit.
yeah.
Yeah, we become numb to the
Right.
principle or the truth of it.
Right.
Right. It's where you have to be able to take that sound bite, if you will, and it's
Mhm.
okay, great, got the sound bite, got the concept. How do I apply it?
Yeah.
How do I live it?
Yeah.
Right.
What's the meaning behind it? It's not what are the sounds that convey that meaning? If you hear them too much, you forget to take it seriously. You can hear something like, man, love is the answer, and you're like, oh, hippie, whatever,
Mhm.
But then if you're like, well, what's a good definition of love? And you're like, oh, well, in Greek they had 3 words for love, and one of them is to will the good of the other.
Mm-hmm.
And well, if you think about, if we want society to be good, if everybody willed the good of the other, society would be amazing. So love is the answer. But if you just stop at peace, love, and drugs, it's you miss that.
It depends on the drug.
Yeah.
Fair enough.
Cheap. Yeah, but you take anything at surface value like that.
Right.
I feel like there's I would not be surprised if in your 20 years of coaching experience that Like, for example, I know you've had really good results with your clients, and there's probably more than a handful of like really amazing like transformations in your clients in terms of like maybe when they started versus like a few years later where they were at. And I wouldn't be surprised if a lot of those results came from uncomplicated solutions to shifting their, not that sophisticated changes in their mindset. Does that make sense? Like you needed to be there as the professional to help them. Like they might not have gotten to that point without you, right? Because you were there as a third party, a trained, professional to assess and guide, right? But ultimately, like the actual change that they made is not like a super complicated thing. No. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it's really the way that I explain it, guys, is if you've ever been in your car listening to a radio station and there's a lot of static and you just have to roll forward like a hair and then it comes in clear.
Yeah.
That's all I do is I just nudge them forward just a little bit so they can get back in connection with their wisdom. They've got the answers inside. I mean, any coaching program, life coaching program that's taught, it's taught on the premise that the person that you're coaching already has the answers within them. Right. And it's helping them listen,
right?
Slow down, be quiet, listen to what their wisdom is. And so a lot of times when I'm coaching somebody, I'm listening and I can tell, am I talking to the wise person?
Ooh.
Or am I talking to one of those little, I call them the success assassins.
Yeah, they're like little like demon things that just like.
And they come in different forms. Like mine is, my top one is a hyperachiever, right? I've got to do more, make more, produce more than anybody.
Right.
Because that comes from a wound of, I don't believe I'm enough.
Okay.
Now,
right.
I'm not going to fix that wound. That wound's just there.
Right. You got stabbed.
I got stabbed.
Right.
The knife's still in me, by the way.
Sure.
Okay. And so with that knife still in me, I've contorted my body to protect myself from anybody ever
touching
flicking
it.
the knife.
Yeah.
But it's going to get touched.
Yeah.
Right. Somebody does something and it goes, and I'm like, oh.
Yeah.
I feel like I'm not enough.
Right.
Okay. That's just the way that
that's
it
your
works.
sensitive spot.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so if I know that, and then I go, okay, let me just recognize that that's a negative belief about myself that I've took on or believe is true. Because if we do our work, we know we are enough just as we are.
Sure.
But we go unconscious, we forget it, and that knife gets
right. Because you can fully understand on a conscious level that like, well, that's not true.
Right.
But when it's deep enough, it's like you said, it's there on a subconscious level and it's not gonna necessarily go away.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. It's anticipating it. It's having tools and resources for when it does happen, recognizing what environments may be a little more rich to triggering it.
So like a preventative action, proactive preventative action that one could take to protect themselves in a healthy way in those sensitive areas would be something like meditation and affirmations.
Those work great. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I could imagine. It's like I know meditation is like great for me, and I don't do it enough. Because I know if I meditate, for example, I will have that time cut out to just exist on a more basic like level and plane, and that's when you can kind of be a little bit more intimate with those things that aren't going away and be okay with them and not necessarily try to fix them on a conscious level, but just be like, yeah, that's that thing that bothers me. Okay. And then with affirmations too, like I was surprised when I started using affirmations, how effective they are. Especially I was doing, like I had this thing going before it got smoky. It was like 15-minute walks in the morning before anything. I mean, like I might have had a glass of water, but basically a 15-minute walk with my headset on, and I would listen to affirmations while I walked, which obviously, like while your body is moving, you're also kind of unlocking parts of your brain that aren't active. If your body's not active. And it would be like, I'd get back to the house, to start on my coffee and my breakfast and everything. And the charge that I would have was like, damn, that is impressive.
Were the affirmations in your voice or somebody else's? So
somebody else's, but I got in the habit of writing them down in a little booklet. So the affirmations would be said, if the topic was about happiness, I am happy, I have what I need, life is good, I am healthy, I have what I need, nature is beautiful, I breathe, whatever. And, what I would do is the pace of those affirmations was faster than I could write, but I would write down the ones that popped to me. And so I just fill the page and then I would stop and be like, okay, done for that for today. Yeah. And so now I have this book, and each page is different because different affirmations worked better for me on different days. But my idea was to come into the studio and read them and do like 5 passes on a page or 10 passes on a page, and then just record that as one recording, and then try listening to that,
Do it.
Yeah.
Yeah, one of the things that I do for my clients is we come up with affirmations and ask affirmations, which I'll tell you about in a second. Yeah. So with the affirmations, they record them just on their phone. They send me the file, and then I have them pick out music that they like, that's motivating or tranquil or whatever it is they want to feel.
Right. So it could be like a brook, a trickling brook, or it could be like the Eye of the Tiger.
Yeah, usually it's not words in a song, but yeah. And then what we do, my son is a sound engineer, so he can layer this stuff. Right. So we do that as one recording. We do one just with their voice as a recording. But then check this out. What we also do is what's called a double induction, left and right. And so we stagger. We do one track goes in the left, another track goes in, but at a different starting point, so that the message is not lined up in the ear.
Okay, so you duplicate the verbal track.
Yep.
And then you offset them.
Yep.
And so you're getting, and then you probably turn the volume down on one or something, or is it?
Nope.
No?
It's chaos.
Oh. It gives me anxiety thinking about it.
But here's what happens.
Okay.
And we can do it with 2 different...
like forces your brain to search for it, right?
Well, it does, but what your brain's forcing, like trying to get it over here on the left side, guess what's sneaking in the unconscious on the other side?
Oh, that's gnarly.
Yeah.
That's gnarly.
Yeah. And it works.
Okay.
And then here's the other piece.
It's chaos.
But the other thing that's cool is what are called ask-formations.
Yeah. Let's hear about this.
Right?
Yeah.
So give me one of your affirmations.
Let's see. What's just like pop one? I am graceful.
Okay.
Sure. I don't know. That's
perfect.
Yeah.
Perfect. So now ask the question, why am I graceful?
Right. You just say, why am I graceful?
Why am I graceful?
Right.
And what's your brain do?
It accesses your cognitive, bias. What is it called? Your confirmation bias. It's your reticular activating system, right?
Right. Looks for the evidence that it's true.
Yeah. Looks for the evidence that's true.
Why am I? How am I?
Right.
How am I becoming more?
That, yeah.
Right. So affirmations work. We know it.
Right. But that's like the first layer.
Yeah.
And if you do an ask for me, you're really digging in now. Like you're really tapping in because you're actually going directly to the librarian and being like, hey, go find this book, and this book.
Yeah,
you're just getting straight to it instead of like passive aggressively being like, oh, it might be nice to have a cookbook around here, like it might be nice to have a book about confidence around here.
But well, it's, our brain, Google is designed after our brain, right? The search engine.
Yeah.
So all we're doing is we're activating our universal search engine. Like, okay, rather than me Googling, why's my life suck? And getting this huge
list
which is the questions, right? When we're, I want to keep saying awfulizing. Catastrophizing. Yeah. We're basically asking ourselves downward spiral looping questions. What if this? What if this? What if this? What if this? And we're dead. But if we ask the what if questions going up, we get the same search, a better search back.
Mm-hmm.
So
Right. So if you're saying, what if I call 100 people and nobody buys,
Mm-hmm.
the proper equivalent, like the proper version of that would actually be,
Why would somebody buy my product?
That's a great one. Yeah, and you can
it could
have
be a
bunch
few.
of them, right?
Yeah.
Right. I
So
mean,
it
that
could
could
be-
go both ways. If you don't have self-confidence, you're like, well, nobody would buy my product. But,
Note to self.
Yeah. So you have to be, so you just get a little bit clever about it and you just say, what are the reasons somebody would buy my product?
Right.
Yeah.
Instead of why, like leaving it too open, just like, yeah, okay. That's cool. Ask formations.
Mm-hmm.
Why am I confident?
Because
Yeah. Because XYZ.
look around you.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Look what you're creating.
Right.
Look what you're contributing.
This is something I'm absolutely 100% doing from this point forward because, there's, without like doing like, oh, I'm doing my ask formations today. There's definitely been times where I would notice a negative self-talk and then you go, hey, you're doing that thing again. You should think about reasons why everything's going to work out. Right. And then
Watch the should word.
Oh, so it's sneaky.
Mm-hmm.
So it's why everything's going to work.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And it's not just accessing your mind. You also observe your surroundings, like you said,
Well, it's like Einstein used to say, whatever we tell ourselves before we look at something determines what we see. So if we're
100%
telling
true.
ourselves, this isn't going to work, or this is going to be too tough or hard or whatever, it's like, that's what we feel as a result of what we're seeing in our mind. Because the way our brain works is we have what I refer to as bits, right? Beliefs, ideas, and thoughts. Those form our feelings and our emotions. You probably have heard emotions like emotions, energy, and motion. Based upon that feeling, we take an action or we don't take an action. Right? It's either an inspired action or an expired action, maybe hiding out. And that, based on that action or behavior, gets the result. And then we've got a story about the result or lack of results.
More data.
Data and into the bits. And then it becomes this cycle. So we've got and I call this going to the gym, GYM, meaning guide your mind.
Is there, hold on, I have to interrupt. Is there a way that somebody can sign up to your email list? Because I get these acronyms that you have, through your emails that you send out. Is there a way that somebody can just sign up for these, or is that like, can they just go on your website and hop onto your email list, or is this like VIP stuff?
It's both.
Oh, okay.
I mean, there's VIP stuff, and then there's stuff for.
Oh yeah, no. I guess I'm just saying if somebody's listening,
Yeah.
and wants some of the, anybody can get it stuff.
Just at our website, sign up for our blog, and
If you're listening, I would recommend doing it because if you're not taking notes right now, then you could at least get your email populated. But I do recommend writing some of this stuff down because it's good. So yeah, going to the gym. Yeah.
Yeah, and so that's going to the gym. The guide your mind is that part where you focus on that quadrant of the bits. And it's also befriending, I'll use your word, the bitch voice.
Yeah.
It's like, hey, it's going to show up. It's going to, sneak in and get a seat at the table. And we just have to recognize it's not in charge.
Yeah.
Oh, you again.
Yeah.
I got this, and get back to it.
Yeah. Well, the analogy of the boss voice and the bitch voice was like one of my the people who I learned from. That's like his analogy, but he teaches mental toughness, right? So, ultimately, if you just think about it as like angel and the devil on your shoulder, that's generic enough to where like you can make a version for mental toughness, or a version for negative and positive, or a version for whatever else is relevant.
Yeah.
But ultimately, it's weird that everything seems like it has that like two-directional. You know what I'm saying? Like,
Well, it's tricky. Here's the way to make the distinction.
yeah.
Right. The boss voice is about growth and expansion.
Yeah, I
The
can't do
bitch
it.
voice is about
Yeah.
the status quo or shrinking and contracting.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
It's about keeping you safe when it doesn't need to keep you safe from anything.
Right. Well, you know, and that makes perfect sense. And it's interesting that, for example, like mental toughness can be this thing where you can there's like you could have a whole industry on mental toughness.
There is.
Right. No, I know. But just that idea is kind of amazing to me.
Mm-hmm.
Like something like mental toughness is like you can have programs, challenges, events, circuits, networks, just based around like a simple concept. You know, obviously it's super relevant. You know, I mean, people can make claims like, oh, if you're not mentally tough, you're never gonna XYZ. You need to be mentally tough to do this or that. But then likewise, like there's industries around like I feel like things like gratitude. Right? I mean, coaching programs, books, conferences, you know, it's really interesting to me. It's really amazing. Like, especially with the internet and everything being accessible, like even on your phone at this point. Like you don't even have to be at your office desk anymore. Like, and you can log in and like, you can have a coaching call, you know? You can watch a whole like course or series.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's no lack of information. Like you say, you know, it goes back many, many years, and it's just, you know, has different window dressing applied to it over the years. You know, I mean, this stuff is like in the Dead Sea Scrolls.
Right.
Oh, yeah.
Right.
Well, that's something that I've noticed too is like, and Charlie, you and I have talked about this a lot. It's like, well, this is in the Bible.
Right.
Like this is as old as the Bible.
Right.
You know?
So, I mean, all of our oldest myths, they're all about us. You know?
Hero's journey.
Yep. Yeah. Yeah. Joseph Campbell,
Yeah.
right? Yep. So.
What would do you have, without sharing any personal details, what has been, if I may ask, like an example of somebody who maybe was at a point that you coached, so before you started with them, let's say they were either stuck or really not having a lot of traction, and they ended up after working with you having comparatively a lot of success in their endeavor. Like I don't even care if you tell me or not, like what industry they're in. I don't really care. I kind of am more interested in like what were things that helped them tune into that frequency. Where did you help guide them to where they clearly understood their inner brilliance, right? Because that's your, like, what's like a common, either a common or just an example of one that was almost like remarkable, the difference that it made. Is that a fair question? Or does it kind of not make sense?
No, it makes sense. Where it always, you know, the light bulb goes off for people at different times, and it's when they finally can separate out the voice. And they can recognize, okay, there's this part of me that is this wise self. You know, my X number of years on the planet, I've got great feedback. I know what works, what doesn't work, what could work better. I know how to get answers.
Right.
When we remember that and then catch when that other voice that's trying to convince us that we're not enough or we're less than or you need to play it safe because, and playing it safe is a very dangerous place to hang out, by the way.
Yeah, that makes, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And it's when they can start catching it themselves, because in our coaching, I call them out all the time.
Right.
You know, and we give those voices a name, you know, and so it's just like, hey, you know, I'm happy to talk to the avoider,
right?
But I think you're not paying me to talk to the avoider. You're paying me to talk to the wise Cody right now.
Yeah.
So what does the wise Cody?
It's a great approach.
Want me to know?
Yeah. No, that's a great approach. So it's just that then. It's the awareness.
It's totally the awareness. And I've got a process. It's 6 steps and it's 6 A's. The first one is awareness, right? You have to have this awareness that you've got these voices or narratives or stories, whatever you want to call it, that are going on 24/7. Maybe not 24/7. I bet they take a break when we're sleeping and integrating.
Yeah.
Right. But we have to have the
yeah.
awareness. It's like, so, okay, I want something to change or improve in my life. What is that?
Right.
Okay. That's the first part. The next part is, okay, let's have the right attitude, meaning let me connect in with my wise self. Who is this wise self, right? Level 10 Machen or level 10 Charlie or Cody. Or if we pull it open, you know, we got the S on the chest where we've got that part of us that's unstoppable. So let me get in touch with that. Next, let me anticipate, that's the third A, let me anticipate where this voice, this success assassin is hiding out and where it's going to get activated. Because there's going to be situations where I know this is going to happen. You know, I'm not immune from it. I go into a situation and I throw somebody up onto the pedestal and I throw myself in the pit,
Right.
and that voice gets activated. So I know, you know, if I'm going into a big meeting with, you know, the people that make 50 times the amount of money that I make in a year and a day,
That you're in the environment where that could trigger.
that could get triggered. And I know I shut down, I do certain things that, you know, I'm not my most resourceful. So when I know that can happen, I anticipate, okay, this can happen, right? Then from there, I've got to recognize, okay, what resources do I want to align for myself and remember to stay plugged into my full neocortex,
Right.
rather than running around just with the lizard brain.
Right. So that and those resources would be like the tools and like stuff like affirmations. And
It's affirmations. It's resetting the nervous system, right? Most people don't know how to reset their nervous system when they get emotionally hijacked. And the easiest way to do it is to get back into your body. So breathe 6 deep breaths of air into your body, get the oxygen in the blood going. Touch your fingertips, right? Notice the ridges on your fingertips.
Right.
Notice all 10 toes, right? That gets
Right.
you back into your body. Have an affirmation to remind yourself that, you know what, I am enough. If I don't have an answer, I can get an answer. We're all here. We're all learning. So whatever it is that you need to get yourself okay, have that available. And most importantly, know when you're typically going to get tipped over or hijacked.
Right.
So that you can kind of anticipate it and imagine it and go, oh yeah, when this happens, I'm going to grab this. It's like I used to box in college, right? So you have to have a certain amount of muscle memory so that when you get your bell rung,
Right.
Yeah.
you know either to come in and hold on tight, which is real safe,
Right.
or throw combinations and back up and get away
Right.
out of range. And if you don't have that as auto memory,
Right.
you're going to get annihilated,
Yep.
right?
That's,
So
yeah. Okay. That's great.
so it's like, what's your combination going to be when you get your bell rung?
And practicing that,
And practicing it. Yeah,
Right.
exactly.
Mm.
And
because you need to take it from the third step to the fourth, to the unconscious competence.
Right.
Yeah.
So it starts to wire in our brain. What we wire together fires together. So the practice is, if I do that and feel that before I'm in that real environment, next time I get reminded of something like that in that environment, it'll get activated. Right. And so we know the action to take. And then the trick is, one of the other A's is to acknowledge that you did a good job with it or did better than last time with it.
Right.
And then from there, it starts to need conditioning, which is accountability. Right. So it's just you're measuring, monitoring, improving, and tracking.
Right. Yeah. The acknowledgement thing is interesting. I feel like I've been guilty at sometimes for not fully acknowledging a win that should be acknowledged. Yeah. Like, it seems like that would be helpful to it, you know, like,
Yeah, somewhere between diapers and getting our business cards printed, we forgot how to celebrate.
Yeah.
Right. So it's we got to celebrate or calibrate. It's one of those two things all the time.
and I get it. Like, you don't, maybe we should all think about this. Like, okay, well, why are you not celebrating? Well, I just don't want to celebrate too early. Well, what are you celebrating too early? You're not celebrating anything in the future. You're celebrating what you already did, you know?
Right.
Don't want to jinx
Like,
it,
there just
though.
might be a fear of, well, if I celebrate, yeah, exactly. Just superstitious
might
shit.
unravel.
Yeah.
They're going to ask for their money back.
Well, yeah. I mean, so think about it. If you had a kid, right? You have a kid and you want him to do this thing that would be good for him, but he doesn't do it yet. and like he's here, and the action, let's say it's going to the bathroom before he gets in bed instead of waiting until the lights are out and gets out of bed and goes to the bathroom. And it's like you ideally want him to do it like right after dinner. That's where you're going for. But if he's like climbing into his bed and remembers, you celebrate that.
Yeah.
Because it's a step in the right direction.
Right.
You know, it's like you don't wait until he gets to the point because he's getting no rewards along the way, and he doesn't know if he's making progress or not.
Right.
So
here's a piece on that too, because we're just 8 years old,
right,
in men's suit here,
right,
right.
Yeah.
The trick is, whether it's with our kids or with the people that we're leading or interacting with, is to help them self-validate, right? Let them get a sense of the good job that they're doing. Because what happens for most of us, and well-meaning parents do this all the time, is they tell their kid what a great job. They celebrate. And then the kid starts to get this sense of, I need validation from out there to feel good.
Wild.
Right?
I never thought that could be a place where that would come from.
Oh yeah.
So what's the nuance that helps the kid?
Well,
get
it's
internalized?
acknowledging it, and it's also asking the child or the person we're working with,
right?
Hey, how do you feel about what you just did?
Right.
How do you feel about catching that you didn't go to sleep before went in the bed?
Right.
Yeah.
Say it a little more positive than that, but
Right.
it's how do you feel?
Got
And
it.
they may go, I don't know how I feel. Well, does it feel good, feel bad? There's a great video, I can send it to you guys, and it's this little kid that learned to ride his bike. You probably have seen it. And his dad's like, how do you feel, buddy? And he's like, I feel happy of myself.
Yeah.
And that video was demonstrating it perfect. So, the dad was obviously, happy, and the kid could sense the excitement, but he took the time to say, how do you feel?
Yeah.
Right.
Right.
Super
and let
smart.
the kid get in touch with that feeling. And it's like, man, I did something really cool. And then the video is cute because he goes on to kind of, tell everybody, you can do it too.
Yeah. That's I think I did see that, and it was wonderful.
Yeah.
Like if that doesn't cheer you up a little bit,
right,
you got something going on. Yeah, no, that was a great little bit, Machen. The whole idea of, if you're the only one congratulate or celebrating for somebody, like especially a child, you're training them to have their validation be outside of themselves.
Yeah, they're giving away their power to a parent, a spouse, a sibling, a teacher,
Right.
a coach.
Right. Yeah. Wow, I just never thought of that before. And it's
You didn't need to until now.
I know. But it's just
How's that feel?
just wonderful. Like so enlightening. I'm happy of myself. That's the other cute part too, is the simplicity of the emotion. Like just the grammar's even wrong.
Right.
And it's just like, self is happy.
Yeah.
Whatever his name is, Billy happy.
Right.
And you're just like, yeah, Billy.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh yeah, Billy. It's like watching an Olympian, right? Get a gold, and they just are like, when they look up at the Jumbotron or whatever, and they see like, oh, I won. And it's like, and then they just like, just the tears and the explosion of joy, like in accomplishment.
Yeah.
Like, how does that not get you? And then like watching,
I'm on the couch. I cry at all that stuff,
dude.
That just brings forth so
Yeah,
much
I'm a
emotion.
happy crier too. It was like, I watched a recent video. One of our swimmers, one of the U.S. swimmers, I think his last name was like Dressler or something. I have not been following it, but the clip was really beautiful. He was swimming, and he wins the race. But in the video, they have the family like on another, like a picture in picture, because I don't know if they're in the same town, if they're in Tokyo too, or I don't know where they are at, but they're like filmed, and they're filming them watching him on the TV.
Yeah.
And the sister's like sitting there like air pounding with her fist, and the dad is just perfectly stoic.
Yeah.
And the mom is like somewhere in the middle.
Yeah.
Like they're used to dealing with this stuff, but the sister is just like on an emotional roller coaster. And he wins, and like the the look on his sister, like just
Actually, I think that was his wife.
Was it his wife? Yeah. I don't know why I assumed it was his sister, but so it's his wife, and just the amazing, like the joy that I saw was just like, I can't even speak to how wonderful it was.
Yeah.
You know, and then
it's so stacked because they know the sacrifice,
right,
the discipline, and the letdowns and the failures, all that.
And the next video same family, same swimmer, was when they were playing the national anthem with him on the podium, and he's sitting there, crying.
Yep.
And he's probably mouthing the words to the anthem, of course, but he's wearing a mask, so you can't really tell, but either way, you can tell he's crying and that he's proud.
Yeah. And
that genuine pride of like the self-fulfillment, the fulfillment like for his country. Like there was a lot of like, wow, there's a lot of pride there. And then there was a video of them watching him on the podium on the national anthem. It was like the same, and they're just like so happy. But he has that sense, like that's got to be a huge reason why he's even in the Olympics, is he had to go through enough challenge and risk to feel the pains and the struggles, but also the wins genuinely, and not just get the validation from somebody else. You know what I'm saying? And to think about like his dad being like super stoic while everybody else in the room is like freaking out, like in a good way, but freaking out. The math works for me on that now, because I was wondering, how can he be so stoic? And I'm like, that might have actually been a huge gift that he gave his son, if during a lot of his competitions he never got, I don't want to say overly worked up or anything, but just he kept the emotions reined in to the point where he would actually think to say, how does that feel, son? You know what I'm saying?
Not getting caught up in
because everybody else is obviously giving him that external input. So for me, the math checks out now. Yeah. Sorry, that was like a long-winded story, but like my brain figures.
That's how you process it.
My brain figures stuff out when I'm like not thinking about it, and then it comes out, and I'm like, yeah, no, that math worked. But sometimes I need a sounding board to try it. Yeah.
Totally get it.
Yeah. Anyway, win stuff by trying and doing. It's a good thing.
And trying again.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Very good. Well, what are we, like an hour in?
Yeah.
Cool. Did you have fun?
This is a blast. I love this.
I think you dropped like several very important value bombs on the listeners' ears today.
Cool. Hopefully they don't just navigate a park.
Yeah. I'm really looking forward to making some little clips that we can share, like on social media and whatnot.
Absolutely.
There's a lot of good bits in there that's like, if somebody can take 3 to 5 minutes to hear this idea out, like we nailed it.
Yeah.
Thanks, Machen.
Thank you guys. Appreciate it.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Love what you got going on here.
It's fun. All right, man. We'll talk soon.
Sounds good.